Assalamu alaikum. I would like to thank WAIOT for the invitation and for giving me the chance to present my work. I am Dr. Agustin Telles from Mexico. I come here representing AMSICO, our spine surgery society, and I work in Cozumel, Quintana Roo. I have no conflict of interest and would like to start this exposition by inviting you to click on your phone on this QR code so that we may work together through ResearchGate. This platform allows us to do some research internationally, and we can share information. Thank you. The study design was a literature review. We reviewed 2,000 articles and selected only 200. This represents a sample of 5 million patients. We have P of 0.001 and a T student of 0.8, kappa 0.94. So I will start with this question. Has anyone seen in vivo viral action? Video, microscopy? No? Impossible, right? Because this technology doesn't exist. So we work on frozen or images that are taken from samples that are processed and frozen in time or even destroyed. So we're looking at a car crash after the accident. We don't see the accident, we just suppose what's happening. So let's go deeper into this. SARS-CoV-2, the COVID, as you know, its structure is made of these proteins, S, E, M, and N. These, the spike protein is believed to do a hinge-like process when it comes close to the ACE2 receptor to get into the cell. But ACE2? Well, there has been further studies on the following years after the pandemic, and we have found, or scientists around the world have found, that the COVID doesn't go for the ACE, it goes for the membrane, okay? How? Well, the spike gets into the membrane of the cell and makes the infection. So, for the virus to get into the cell, it needs more membrane. The more membrane you have, the better surface for the virus to get in. These membrane places, we call it lipid rafts, because there are no proteins. They're like a flat surface, like an airport, okay? So what happens, how can you get these flat surfaces bigger and make your cell more infectious, more sensitive to infection? Well, if you have higher cholesterol levels, if your patient starts to eat, then these membrane, these lipid layers, islands become bigger. So if we treat the cholesterol with statins, then they become smaller. So we get some protection from that. Lipid lowering of patients by giving diet and by giving these medications will help decrease the infection of the virus. And also the mechanisms of the vitamin D process, like the 25-hydroxycholecalciferate, when this increases, it also decreases the ability of the spike to unite to the lipid membranes. During the syndrome, while you're sick, if the patient goes into a diet and you make him lower a little bit his weight and the cholesterol levels, then the infection gets better. But if he grows fatter during the process of infection, he might get worse, okay? So, bottom line is magnetism, okay? The COVID spikes have a negative charge. And the cholesterol layers of these lipid islands have a positive electric charge. So the bigger the difference between the charges will make magnetism attract themselves together. And this will also happen if you have implants in the body. If you're an orthopedic surgeon and you put an implant into the body of the patient, you will have dead spaces where you place the screws in the holes, where the different joints of the implant are made. You might have these dead spaces. And if they get in contact with these lipid layers, with some fat tissue, then you're gonna have the perfect place for a virus to infect and maybe even make a reservoir of the virus to reinfect. Remember, viruses, as Oparin and Haldane did their study about life, don't have the criteria to be considered living creatures. They don't do oxido-reduced processes inside their membranes. They are just physical objects. So this is kind of weird. I presented this work last year in Global Spine, and we came down to the work of Nedlejivan and Dorman, and that they made this equation so that you may quantify the van der Waals forces of magnetic attraction in membranes to specifically explain why, if you have two positive charges between membranes like bubbles, they get attracted and stuck together if they're supposed to reject each other. So van der Waals do their job by attracting themselves. And the same thing happens between viruses. Here we have this electron micrograph where you can see viruses sticking together instead of rejecting themselves. So maybe what viruses are doing when sticking together is making themselves better, like a trap to grab the cell when it comes through it. Okay? So these forms that they make, they can vary in different shapes. You see these microphotographs, we don't really know because this was processed through metal so that we can get a better image. So we altered the nature of these objects when we picture them. So in vivo, what is happening is that the van der Waals energy makes these patterns that we call membranes, but they're not necessarily membranes. We can call them nests if you want. You can call them spheres. You can call them vacuums, whatever you want. But viruses do get attracted to trap the cells in the path. That's why when these cells got trapped and in the microvasculature of the lungs, the brain, and the different places where COVID has been found to affect, you do remember DIC is the main cause of death because all these clots get captured in the lungs and everywhere. Why? Because we have these things getting the cells stuck in microvasculature, and all the process of coagulation starts, and we get the DIC because of this. So these things and all objects in the universe obey the laws of gravity. Okay, we're talking from planets to viruses. Magnetism makes them come together. The space between molecules and atoms, we're talking about the dark matter right now, okay? They say that space, when we look up into the heavens, is dark matter. It's not emptiness. So the space inside an atom, if you take right now an atom, you're gonna see its nucleus. If it's the size of my fist, then the electron is as far as a stadium wide. All the space between might be dark matter, and this, I'm sure, is part of us, part of the microorganisms and all life that surrounds us. Dark matter is everywhere. So maybe even black holes are not holes. They might be just big objects made of black matter, black stars, I don't know. So virus and other non-living pathogens work under this nature's law. So my conclusions are SARS-CoV-2 viruses interact, forming these conglomerate forms that you may call membranes if you wish, to increase their infectivity factor in a logarithmic way. And cholesterol, HDL, increases morbidity and mortality in COVID. Metal and PEEK implants close to fat tissue do increase it. So do not leave fat tissue in contact with your implants when you do surgery. And remember, microscopic new technology is needed. We're in the stone age of microscopy. We need to make nanotechnology to see live creatures like bacteria and viruses act so that we may understand them better. This work of research was not paid by any government or lab. We have an association in my country which helps do research, and by selling orthopedic implants, non-surgical, we get the funds, and we also help children that have deformities to get spine surgery. So if you wish to scan with your phone this QR code, you might get into our webpage, and we'll be thankful to get your help. I also want to invite you to the Congress of the Mexican Spine Surgery Association that is going to take place in a couple of days. You can follow it virtually. You don't have to go over there. You can see it on your computer. Right there is the code too. This is a place where it's going to take. It's paradise. Please visit Mexico. And here it goes again for the people that missed it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gustin, for your very nice and very strange for us talk, but it's very very nice. And Dr. Ali Zada want to have a comment about your talk.